Okay, so relatively early in treatment, we're doing crisis plans, we're developing rapport with our client, we're working on the relationship, but we need to do some psychoeducation with our clients. Our clients come into our office and they think they're crazy. And they think they're crazy because they feel crazy. Our job is to explain to them why they aren't crazy. So the clients come in with what looks like maladaptive behavior. And it's not maladaptive behavior. What it is a creative adjustment to dysfunctional environment. If you have a client that is self-injuring, for instance, if a client is cutting him or herself, they're not generally doing it because this is something they want to do. It serves a purpose, whether it's affect regulation, whether it's a communication, whether it's for control or punishment. We have to figure that out with our client, but we can't take that away. I mean, the one thing, we get very uncomfortable when our clients hurt themselves. We get very uncomfortable if they cut themselves. So what we tell them, you know, ensues a power struggle of, you need to stop doing this. There's some therapists that won't see their client if they cut themselves. And then there's a distinction. We'll talk about that in a second. But what happens is then the client goes underground with his or her maladaptive behaviors. They're going to do it. You've just broken rapport, and that we don't develop trust with our clients, so they're not going to tell us what they're doing. It's not real helpful in therapy. I have in the book, there's a whole bunch of questions, okay? And they're by no means exhaustive, but they're questions about drugs and alcohol. There are questions about self-injury. There's questions about sex. There's questions about a lot of things that look like maladaptive behaviors, but we're going to open up the discussion. And part of the discussion is, what does it mean to you? Why are you doing it, right? And it's really not why are you doing it, it's I get why you're doing it. When you have somebody that feels like they're going to explode and the forced choices are kill myself or cut myself, and we tell them, no, you can't cut yourself, what are we telling them? Okay, get you put your hand on your head for just a second. Okay, now I want you to take another deep breath in, because I want to tell you something, but I want you to stay here for a minute, okay? I want to tell you something. I want you to be able to hear me, okay? I get that you feel like it's repulsive. I don't feel repulsed, okay? I don't feel like leaving, and I do understand a little bit about it. I know that, and when some people, whatever I learned as a coping mechanism, whatever it is, that's what I use. And so when we're really stressed, that's what I do. Some people go to the gym, some people, have affairs, some people eat too much, whatever it is, that's what we learn to do. And you learned something that worked. Now, apparently it's not okay anymore because it has some costs that are too high for you. That you're having scars on your body and you feel bad and you notice the shame. So it's not as helpful as it used to be. So when you say you want to change, you don't want to do this anymore. Oh, what I think is that's a hopeful thing. But I don't think that this is awful. I think this is what got you through until you got here. What'd you hear?
A little bit of relief. I mean, that's what I feel. I mean, what I heard you say is that you don't think I'm crazy. And
what else?
That people do all sorts of things to feel better. And this is just what I found to feel better.
And that you wanted to tell me because there were some costs that you weren't still willing to pay, maybe?
I just want to stop. Like, it just is so, it's like so overwhelming. It's so consuming. It's, like, I have on a short sleeve shirt because I knew I was going to tell you today, but I'm always in long sleeves, even when it's warm outside.
Okay, so part of stabilization too is to identify clients' strengths. That's what we're talking about, resilience. What do they do? How have they survived? How have they made it to our office? Okay, so they've done something that kept them alive, and that needs to be noticed. It needs to be not just congratulated, but tell them how important it is that they've gotten there. So whether it is that it was drugs or alcohol, self-injury, any type of self-harm, whatever it is, we have to look for what it was used to do. And what it was used to do generally is in the service of the client. So we need to be able to point that out. We also need to be able to point out the costs of it, because usually when people show up in therapy, they're showing up because these maladaptive coping aren't working anymore. So Bella-Ruth Naprasek says it's with alcohol, it has a limited shelf life. And I think all of these maladaptive behaviors do. And I'm calling them maladaptive in pretentious air quotes because I don't think they're maladaptive. I think they are I think they're creatively brilliant, and I think it's a client's attempt to stay alive in the best way that he or she knows how. So having said that, we'll go on to how we have to bring up the cost. And generally, the way I like to bring up the cost is to tell the client all the good things about this behavior. What has it done for them? And we want to join with the clients in telling them that we understand why they used it and how effective it has been. And then once you do that, you join with the client and you explain to them that you get it and you get why they use it, they're generally able to tell you the costs of it, and they're telling you why it doesn't work that much anymore, or why it, it has decreased in its utility. So that is our opportunity to be able to say, okay, well, we need to build your repertoire of coping behaviors. We're not going to take anything away. And I had a teacher once say to me, she said, if you ever go to a therapist that tells you they're going to take away your coping, go to another therapist, because it's a bad idea, because this is what has worked. All right, so you have a repertoire of what you've been using, and these are the things when stressed, that's what these clients are going to go back to. So when clients get highly stressed, they are going to fall back and use these behaviors, and just get used to it. That is going to happen. And if there's going to be a power struggle about it, you're going to lose the client. Everybody loses in this way, okay? So you lose the client loses the client loses the relationship. So my feeling on this, and there's other people that feel differently, I think it's a very bad idea to tell clients that if they cut themselves, you're not going to see them, or if they do something, you are not going to talk to them. In DBT, therapists that work with borderline personality disordered individuals, what they do is they'll say, if you cut yourself or if you use this coping mechanism, it's not that I'm not going to see you, it's just that I don't need to talk to you because you've already regulated your affect. You haven't tried something different, and you don't need my help to coach you into something different. So it's not a punishment. It makes logical sense that you wouldn't need to speak with this client because they've done that. They're not saying they're going to commit suicide. What they're saying is, I just cut myself. Well, that means their affect has been regulated, or they've used it as control or communication, whatever they're using it for. They've already done that. If we're talking, there's a difference between suicide, obviously, and self-injury, and it's a huge difference. Like I said before, self-injury at times is, it's a bad choice, but it's it's the best choice among forced options. So when the option is, I'm going to kill myself or I'm going to hurt myself, we always take, I'm going to hurt myself, because where there's life, there's hope. The converse is true.